Hey guys, Amazing Ampharos here, picking back up with Final Fantasy IV The Afterreader, where I'm finally ready to jump into endgame. And it all starts off with a chance to import data from the various tales. And as you can see, most of my characters are coming around level 20-ish. Some are a little lower, and some are named Golbez and come at level 32. But we don't actually start right away having everyone together. The various characters are scattered around the world in various sorts of peril, and Team Golbez is going to have to go around and gather them all up, and of course save them in the process. This is known as the gathering portion of the endgame, and this is a very important section of gameplay because it's the only time in this entire game you have free reign over the overworld with an airship. Now, it is somewhat limited. You aren't allowed to go to the underworld, you aren't allowed to go to the moon, and these meteors you see falling cut you off from going to a lot of minor areas. But you really can do a whole lot, and there's tons of stuff to find around the world that's really going to help empower our characters, so we're going to be ready for that final dungeon. Because as awesome as Golbez is, he can't do it all by himself forever. He's going to need 4 companions to go with him. Well, maybe more like 4 minions, underlings. We'll call them the 4 Thieves. Now, we aren't locked into who those are going to be yet. For now, he only has 3 people following. Edge, Luca, and Rydia. Yeah, Edge's apprentices were saved and they're on the airship, but for reasons unexplained, they're not going to come with us. Probably to keep this section of the game fair for people who didn't rescue him. I didn't save Kalka and Britta, but had I, they'd be in the same boat. They'd be on the airship, ready to be sent straight into the final dungeon, but they just won't help us out in this gathering. This is actually really good for Edge, Rydia, and Luca that they get to help out in the gathering, because it gives them a chance to begin to catch up in levels. And while I'm never going to stop to grind, it'll probably become apparent pretty quickly that everyone other than Golbez really needs to catch up on levels. So whoever has a chance to participate in more content is going to be relatively better off. And in terms of the story, it's pretty funny. Edge is getting really frustrated, because he wants to know what's the story of this mysterious man in black. We know he's Golbez, but Edge does not. But Golbez chooses to explain nothing, tell the group what you're going to do, and then you just do it. Because that's how Golbez works. Like right now, Golbez says we're going this way. He's not going to tell us why, he's just going to tell us we're going. And we're going to go. You're also going to see some cuts from time to time to the throne room here, where we get to see how negotiations are going between Team Cain and Cecil. That's not going to be the focus of the gathering, but we're going to get to have a little fun with that group. For now, though, let's focus on getting Team Golbez ready to go, because Team Golbez has an awful lot of work ahead of it. We're going to start off by rearranging our party because it's a terrible formation that you fall to. We're going to set the game speed to fast for the last time. We're going to improve our equipment a bit. The Mystic Veil and Luminous Robe from other tales help Rydia quite a bit, whereas his Ice Armor and Overkiller help Luca a lot. We have nothing at all to help Edge. Sorry, Edge. Whereas the only thing that helps Golbez is throwing the circlet on him. This is only because I have the enhancement sword, though. If I still had the Ebony Blade, a Polymorph Rod would actually help him out a bit. And now we've done the story, so it's time to go around the world gathering everything we can that can help us. And we have to defeat a couple of these zombie infantry and Barret in order to get to the items, but they're not too tough. Just defend with everyone other than Golbez, And then target all Firago wins in one action. Everyone else defends just because there's a very real risk of them dying. And we really want the others to get experience because, again, while they can't really help much right now, they will be able to help us quite a bit down the line. Edge in particular will have some immediate utility because he's still fast, and his smoke ability will get us out of random encounters. And you better believe at our current levels, we want to fight as few random enemies as we can get away with. When you also heal up with items, you'll see we have the inventory from every tail put together. So we have a whole lot of stuff. One of the main advantages of importing from everyone is that you end up with just a huge stockpile of good stuff. So you don't really get much of it given to you as the final dungeon, so you can also say this is our last opportunity to accumulate items to help our cause. And it is wonderful when they target Golbez with that. And this subtle hidden passage leads to some pretty good stuff. There's this cottage, this dry ether, this X potion, and most importantly, the small tail. The small tail is a very special item unique to the gathering. There are 21 of them hidden obscurely around the world, and you can trade them for various other tails with this collector in the Cave of Evlon. Now, those are later traded halfway through the final dungeon for various pieces of equipment. A couple of them are really powerful, and I'm of course going to pick the tails that correspond to those powerful pieces of equipment. Well, it's not really needed to beat the game. It's perfectly possible to beat all the force bosses easily enough. But that super equipment will be very important if I hope to beat the super bosses late in the final dungeon. So I'm certainly happy to have access to it. So speaking of the tails, don't be misled by that item. There's a bunch of those hidden around the final chapter too. They do nothing useful for you. They're basically just there to fool you, so don't get fooled. And stuff like this is just storyline stuff that you don't actually have to watch any of this. But I like to flesh things out a bit. So I figured I'd pop in and check on the families. And now we've done everything there really is to do in Baron proper. So there are a few other things around the Baron region we can find. Northwest here, we see this suspicious upside-down tree. This is a common geographic hint that there's a hidden item here. In this case, the second small tail of the Baron region. Now we need to head here to this single tree, where you get the third and final of those small tails in the Baron. And let's switch to Rydia. Be better to look at than Edge. I think we can all agree on that one. And you can go anywhere you want from here. I prefer to go to the Kaipo-Damskin's Duel area. There's just a lot of running around and no real fighting here. We get a lot of good items out of it. Like here, there's the first of 7 small tails in this area. And let's head up to the town. Not want to talk to the Sills. They're in a pretty crazy mood right now, so they fight you. And in the long run, that'll inhibit your ability to get them back as an Eidolon for Rydia if you fight too many of them. They're really just looking for Yang, but since they're crazy, they can't find him, even though he's right here. Unfortunately, even though we can find him, we can't help him yet. We'll be able to help him in a little bit, though, so hold tight on that. We can check out Tella and Anna's graves. and give Golbez a good spook by making him think there might be a couple more meteors headed his way. But nah, rest easy, Golbez. Tella already spent all of his MP, and 9 more than that on you. So, now that we're done in Typo for now, let's head to Domson. We want to start by heading west out here, this little island, which has a lovely little secret for us. It's Chocobo. Now we can use this to give Rydia the Chocobo summon back. We can also use that Mind Flayer summon that I picked up with Pallet. Mind Flayer is a single target insta-cast, just like Bio is instant. But honestly, it's not really useful in any way. It's really cool that I have it. That's worth something, right? Well, it's a nice thought. There's another small tail. And let's head to Domson. Oh. I could have landed a tile closer and I wouldn't be in this encounter. But it doesn't really matter. Because I've picked my route through this to front load all of the events that are just talking and back load all of the dangerous areas and all of the fighting. Oh no, ant lions are attacking the castle. Just like the Sylphs, the game kinda acts like they're in the way, but they're not. I also find it funny that Rydia's never heard of ant lions attacking people, since my memory serves, she was in that boss fight against the ant lion in the last game. She was just a kid though, so it's been a long time. So we start by heading up to the throne room here and talking to Harley the Chancellor, and of course guards A, B, and C. And this conversation doesn't really go anywhere. Other than that, we discover Edward's in the throne room with Team Kane. And we're apparently going to bring Harley with us. But don't worry, we don't have to deal with her being in our battle party. She's just going to sit on the airship. Mostly because Edge is scared she'd get hurt or be useless in battle. Edge's concerns are very wise here. Really, your whole party says smart things other than Luca. Now, I don't see how Harley's advice will prove invaluable in time of need. In fact, I never intend to talk to Harley. Even if you do, she never says anything useful. But Luca's not on our team for thinking, so that's okay, Luca. Now, while we're in here, we can get some items. This is the important one right here. The small tail in Harley's room. Harley herself won't help us, but that tail she hid in her bookshelf, that will help us. And while there's nothing great over on Edward's side, we can still pick up this decoy. Is there anything up here? No, there's not. Why am I going in that direction? And we can loop back around to this bomb core. And that's everything we're ever going to have to do at Domson. So let's head over to Pool, where we're going to get some good stuff and see if we can find a way to help Yang out. We're going to start by wanting to look for this forest here. That doesn't look suspicious, does it? And there's a whole lot of exotic enemy types you can find around the overworld in this state. if you're interested. I'm, of course, really not. Okay, please don't kill Ed. This is kind of my bad, because I've taken a little bit of a circular route to get here. And up here, you can get the fairy rod, but don't forget about the old treasure behind the treasure, the small tail. As for that fairy rod, even though you might be tempted to give it to Rydia, nah, give it to Golbez. It increases his intelligence a bit over the enhancement sword, and Golbez is almost all your damage, so it's always more important to empower him than to help anyone else. And that was Small Tail 4 from the region. Here's Small Tail 5 in this similarly suspicious area. Sorry if I'm a little hoarse as well, I'm just coming off the cold. And let's go into Kabul and see what we can find out. Apparently the Sylphs are laying siege to this castle too. So let's continue to ignore them and go up and talk to Sheila, or as I prefer to call her, Yang's wife. And thus she gives us a frying pan and a ladle, which I think we have a fair idea what we're going to do with these. Ed's disappointed he doesn't get a knife this time. I'm kind of disappointed too, and anyone who remembers what that did in the last game is probably a little sad. But before we go save Yang, let's loot his kingdom. But that's just the kind of friends we are. And again, you don't get this random supply of consumable stuff anywhere else, so you really want to be sure to take advantage. And there's no reason whatsoever to come up the West Tower. I must be insane right now. And in here, there's not a whole lot to find. That box, this wine there, this high potion, and then the whole reason I'm actually here is that small tail hidden right behind that flower pot. And while we're in Kabul, we can do some shopping. This is one of the places that still has functional shops. None of the equipment here is worth anything, really. But we can buy tents, and this is actually the last place we're ever going to get to buy tents, so I'm just going to buy 99 of them. In the final dungeon, you can buy cottages, but not tents. It's the same sort of problem you had in Golbez's Tale. And since cottages cost 5 times as much, I'd rather spend my money economically now. And I'm going to decline to take off right now, and I'm actually going to take advantage of the free bed in here to heal up and shift the lunar phase to what I like more. Since Golbez is our party's entire damage output, we're going to be relying on Full Moon a whole lot. It'll help prevent our characters from dying, and it'll make Golbez kill as effectively as possible. Now let's head back to Typo and see if we can get Yang back in the game. A lucky run with no random encounters. And time to solve this problem the same way we did last game. As you can see, I have a lot of items. Good morning, Yang. Luca's the only one who's bothered by this. Even Yang thinks it's normal to wake Yang up by smacking him upside the head with the frying pan. Edge is too much of a gentleman to use the same technique on Ursula, but Rydia has no problem. Luca's just distraught that this is apparently a normal way for this family to operate. But we'll get over it. And apparently the Sylphs were so inspired by Yang that they just want Yang to rest up and feel better, and they're going to help us in his place. They said the same thing last game, and it's basically the same story as last game. Yang could be useful. The Sylphs are not useful in any way, but we have to deal with it anyway. Oh well, we have our first summon back. I mean, unless you count Chocobo. Well, I guess you should count Chocobo, really, because Chocobo is not any less useful than Sylphs, honestly. But let's see what's happening in the throne room. First of all, apparently the mysterious girl who just warped the crystals out of Rosa's hands. While we have a very ominous conversation with Cecil, in which Kane decides he's going to take charge. And that's about it for now. You're going to quickly pick up on the fact that this conversation in the throne room is the most absurdly long conversation that anyone's ever had. But before we move on, we have one last thing to do in this region, and it's the one thing that can get a little hairy, which is why I saved it for the end. Down here, you can find the last small tail. More importantly, this is a monster in a box. And this guy's pretty strong. Luckily, with the rune armlets or giant clubs on everyone, we're all immune to that. Golbez is going to be our main source of damage. And on Rydia's first turn, you'll want to cast Stop. And stealing the remedy is always nice. Now, we can help ourselves out a bit with this really nifty bam here. If I remember it correctly. Flare Tornado. Combine your powers to do approximately what Golbez is doing already. is important to be damage optimizing here by attacking constantly with Flare Tornado and Spiraga from Golbez, because you barely can go with Great Ball Burrow before stopping. And I would prefer not to reapply Stop. Everyone but Golbez gains a level. We get a Black Belt key, which represents a fairly substantial upgrade for Edge. And with that done, let's head off toward the city. So on the way, we're going to pass through the Adamant Isles. There's honestly nothing to find of merit in the Adamant Isles in the first game. So I'm not going to stop by Meatville. We can find like a cottage there. But down here we can find some stuff. A second Luminous Robe, which is an armor upgrade for Golbez. It's actually just one defense and a lightning resist versus the Ebony Robe. But we'll take everything we can get. And while you're in the Mount Ordeals area, head to the southeast a bit, and you'll find this cave here that you've never been able to reach before. In here, you find an elixir, and somewhere around here, there's a very deviously hidden passage that leads to this small tail, which is the only one under the Cydia region. But you need all 21. You can also find that small tail. Those are usually hidden in a place that tells you there's a real small tail nearby. Then there's one last little piece of treasure here in the Cydia region for us to worry about, and it's down on this island here. But I'd really prefer to heal, so I'm just going to stay in this bed 4 times. Again, I want to always keep it on full moon, because that just improves my damage output so much. I'm also going to equip bow and arrow to Rydia, not because it's useful, but because there's a band I want to show off, and while it's not useful, this is the best time to do it. Monster in a box. The strategy here is very similar to the last time. Just stay alive, inflict him with Stop, while Golbez hammers away with Yagas. I think he's similarly weak to all 3 Yagas, but he looks mechanical, so I want to use Thundava. That's how it works, right? And since Rydia has a band, we can do this really, or has a bow, we can do this funny band. That is not useful anyway, but has a pretty funny animation. Sorry, Edge. That does horrible damage, too. What a worthless band. Now everyone gains a level, and we get the ribbon which we were supposed to get, and an extra Ogre Killer is a lucky drop. Well, kinda lucky, it doesn't help us. It might seem strange, we get the ribbon to Luca. Because everyone else's health are actually helping them out by boosting various stats. The Horned Helmet does too, but just not as much. And I just realized I forgot to get a bunch of treasure in Dawson, including an important item. But this has been going on for a really long time, so I'm not going to reset for it. I'm just going to go back for it. With the airship, you can always make up for your mistakes very quickly. Domsian is just somewhere over here. And if you do want to stop in Mithril, you can buy Mithril armor there. I fail to see the utility of doing so, but if you didn't import tails, you might actually find it useful. Oh, that's nasty. And that's really unfortunate, because that means I'm going to have to rest again. What I forgot, of course, is this subtle little treasure chamber here. And that diamond shield is the main item of merit. That should go to loot. And while I'm in here, I'm going to equip Edge with a diamond armor. That way everyone resists lightning. And I'm sure you can't guess what the first useful item I'm going to get back is. So, another quad rest. The world really will end by the time we're done sleeping, probably. But that's okay. So we need to head down to Basidia, where we can take care of business. Again, sorry for that big detour for the diamond shield. It was just a mental lapse on my part that I completely forgot about it. And I'm going to save and quit here because it's been a really long segment. And the next part, we start picking up with some real challenges. I'll see you then.